Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel. I have today the Geissele Automatics Super Dynamic Enhance Trigger. This is the SDE and I got it off Optic Planets for around $200. So the pull weight on this guy, first stage is going to be 2.3 pounds, second stage 1.2 pounds, total pull weight of 3.5 pounds. I have this trigger installed in my other 16-inch BCM Recce rifle and I absolutely love this thing. So here's what comes inside the package. First off, we have the trigger assembly. And this is the flat bowed version. Here is the hammer assembly. Here is the slave pin. And then here is the lube. Little good old gun KY jelly. Alright, so first thing is first, we're going to pull out your mil-spec trigger. There's two pins here that we're going to punch out. So if you have a punch set, that would be really nice. I think I used a 1/8 punch on this guy, and we're going to punch out the top pin first. The pin came out. Now it's spring loaded, so watch as this thing flies out. Be careful if you have a pet cat or a pet gerbil in the background. Don't want to hit them with that. All right, so let's get this other pin out. Nice, comes right out. Now, pulling this trigger out, what the heck was that piece? Anyways, pulling this trigger out can be tricky at times with the safety selector there, but here's the trick. You see how it toggle the safety switch to safe, and it will free up that trigger. It just gives it more space to come out. See, that frees up. Let's take an instant replay on that. So toggle, see, if you toggle it this way, it won't come out. Okay, so turn the safety switch to safe. You see that? Now it opens up more space for that trigger to come out. Boom. Okay, so take the new Geissele trigger, and we're going to take out the pin that is pre-installed in there. Push out that pin, and we're going to replace it with the slave pin. This will just help us guide and line up those holes when putting it all together. So it's nice that they include this slave pin for us to use in order to make the assembly process a little bit easier. Make sure you put their pins to the side and don't get them mixed up with the mil-spec pins. See these springs? They just bend up like that and they sit flat inside of that trigger housing. Okay? So make sure that pin is lined up with that bottom hole. Okay? Now in putting these in, same thing. You don't have to take out your safety selector to install triggers. Not this one anyways. All you have to do is toggle it to safe, and that opens it up. See, when it's on fire mode, not a lot of space. Toggle it to safe, now it opens that up, and you can drop your trigger in. Just a little trick I learned. Alright, so now what you want to do, it's spring loaded, so there's some tension there, but not that much on this guy. Push it down until you line up those holes. Okay, and now here's their pin. Okay, see there's two grooves on this end, and then the other end is just smooth. You want to put the groove end through first. So groove end through first. Push this down. Push it down, a little bit of spring tension. Line up those holes. Once you see the slave pin sticking through, go ahead and put this guy in, get it started, and then you could hammer it in the rest of the way. Hammers in pretty easily, and the slave pin will fall out on the other end. Okay, there's a slave pin, fell out nicely. Go ahead and check your pins, make sure it's flush. Flush on either side. Okay, looks good. And yeah, so this is the easiest part of the process. Installing the hammer, though, this is the tough part. So there's the hammer face. Hammer face is facing towards the barrel side. And this little curvicle there, or the neck, that spring slams into that. So don't get confused. It can only go in one way. This part of the spring goes in that little curvicle, or that neck. And these springs kind of spring upwards, and they sit flat right on top of your trigger assembly. And they go in just like that, and that's what causes the hammer to break. So it's not as complicated as it looks. It's just a lot of spring tension. So right there and right there, the hammer spring legs just rest on top of that. Literally just lays right on top with spring tension. That's all it does. Okay. So first, let's go ahead and take their pin out of there. That's pre-installed. And we're going to do the same process and put the slave pin in. This pin was a little bit more sticky in there, so I went ahead and just give it a couple love taps to get it started coming out. And then now I can put my slave pin in. All right, so the slave pin is now in. Now the fun part. Okay, so remember, these spring legs sit on top of the trigger assembly. Okay? So we want to just put these legs right over the top, like that, of that trigger assembly. It just sits on top. Now the hard part is trying to push this down with all that spring tension and line up those holes. Use two hands. Use a third if you have one, because it is a little tricky, but it is possible. You just got to play with it and work with it. But there's a little trick I learned. This is my first attempt, as I miserably fail to do it because it's so much spring tension. Here's my second attempt. So on my third attempt, I found out an easy way to do this. Okay? So once you push it down towards the end there, use that little curvicle on that hammer, the back of that hammer face. Put your thumb in that curvicle, push it forward and down at the same time, and then actually lock the hammer back. See that? I locked the hammer back, and now it's holding all that spring tension for me. See how it holds it? Now you can just line up that slave pin with the pinhole, and there's not too much pressure now that you have to work with. So the trick is push it down and lock that hammer back, and then you can go ahead and line up the slave pin. Okay, so let's flip it around. Now let's just make the little minute adjustments to line up that hole. Okay, I see the pin right there. That looks pretty good. Flip it back over and go ahead and hammer this pin in. Just like that, hammer it flush and check both sides to make sure all the pins are flush. Just like that, and that's pretty much it, guys. So it's pretty easy. It's not that complicated. I'm just hammering this flush real quick. It's just a matter of handling all that spring tension, but it is possible. All right, so this looks good. Let's give it a couple function tests real quick. Okay, see what I mean though? Like, it literally, those spring legs just sit on top of the trigger assembly. See right there, those little legs, they just sit on top of the trigger assembly. Not that complicated. All right, let's give it a little function test. Safety works. Toggle it to fire. Let's release the hammer. Hammer releases. Okay. Push the hammer back. Make sure it locks back. Okay, hammer locks back. Okay, and release the hammer again. All right, so it seems to be working just fine. Now, what you want to do now is you want to lube this guy up. So pretty much wherever there is metal touching metal, that's where you want to put the lube. Any spot of friction, so right there. Okay, wherever you see in there where there can be potential metal against metal friction, go ahead and lube it up. Now, they give you more lube than you actually need, so you don't need to use it all, but I would recommend saving the remaining lube and put it in a Ziploc bag, because you never know when you're going to need this again in the future. All right, so that looks good to me. Now from here, we can go ahead and put on the upper receiver and give it a trigger reset test. All right, upper receiver is on, so let's just listen. This is my favorite part of these triggers. Let's just listen and hear that nice crisp break and reset. Okay, charging handle's back. Always check the safe function first. Make sure it doesn't fire on safe. Okay, it's good on safe. Okay, put it to fire mode. Here we go. Nice little take up, and there's the wall. Take up and wall. Very defined wall. And apply a little bit more pressure. Clean break. Short and clean break. Okay, pull the charging handle back. Let's listen for that reset. Short, positive reset. Wall. Break. Very short break. Wow. And very light. Pull it back. Reset. Nice reset there. There's the take up. There's the wall. One more break. Clean. So yeah, everything is working good now, and this is how you install this trigger. Hope this helped today, and I'll catch you in the next one. Hey guys, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I really hope that this helped you out in some way. Go ahead, if you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications as well, because I do post weekly and I do a lot of installs and reviews, all things Second Amendment related. So have a blessed day, and I'll catch you in the next one.